A little bit about my books, I guess. I've written for a long time. My first book was published in 2001. So I've been around for a while, and I've done both nonfiction and fiction. I like both of them for different reasons. I transitioned to writing for mysteries for adults. So my first one of those was this one, Banana Bamboozle, which I wrote with a friend of mine from college. And he's very funny, and we had a hoot and a half trying to write these. So this is the first one, Banana Bamboozle. The second one is Marshmallow Mayhem. And there's probably only going to be the two of them, because writing long distance, writing with another author is hard, number one, and writing long distance with another author is really hard. So probably there's just going to be the two of those. But I think that's a complete series as far as I'm concerned, because I wasn't really thinking about writing a series. So those two are perfect together. So then my next series was my mystery writers mysteries. The first one is Fiction Can Be Murder. The protagonist in these is Charlie Russo, and she is an author, a mystery author herself. And in the first one, her agent was murdered, which my agent was really cool about. So that was kind of gratifying. That was a little nerve-wracking to kill off an agent when you have a very nice agent. So that was fun to do. Writing about a mystery writer means, tons of research, of course, and of course, all of my friends are in these series, whether they believe it or not, whether they recognize themselves or not. The second one is Foul Play on Words. In this one, Charlie goes to speak at a writers' conference in Portland, and the director of the conference is a friend of hers. And when she gets to Portland, the director tells her that her daughter had been kidnapped. And so Charlie, gets sucked into this kidnapping drama, as well as having to help deal with all the conference issues and problems. And it's funny and fun, and I love writing them. And the next one, that's the new cover, Metaphor for Murder. This one I expect will be out in, I'm thinking December maybe. And then number 4 will be called Kill Your Darlings. And number 5 will be Researched to Death. So those are a ton of fun to write, because, it's all about writing. I'm drawing back that curtain on the life of mystery writers. One of the other nonfiction things I did was this cookbook. And the only reason I tell you this book does not sell well, as you can imagine. I mean, there's no pictures. it's not a great cookbook. But it started out as a kind of a gift from my daughter when she was in her first apartment, and it was all the family recipes and stuff like that. And then it snowballed, as things do, into this big book. But the reason I bring it up is because in my crossword puzzle mysteries, this is the first one. This is Quinn Carr, the protagonist, but her mother, Georgianne, works in the kitchen and loves to create these crazy but edible recipes. And they're very funny and really hard to write, actually. But in one of the books, Georgianne gives my cookbook a shout out. So I have to now redesign the cover and reissue it and get it all up to snuff, so that it does Georgianne, it makes it worthy of Georgianne to give it a shout out. So like I said, this is the first one, Puzzling Inc. There are crossword puzzles in the series, in the books. I've had to teach myself how to create crossword puzzles, which is crazy hard, and I wouldn't recommend anybody doing it if you can avoid it. And that is all about me.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. It's so nice to see you. I only have one series that's mysteries, so I'm going to quickly introduce you to these. They are focused on Lila McLean, who is an English professor and a sleuth. In the first book, which is called The Semester of Our Discontent, she goes to Stonedale University, which is her new job. It's a private school. She doesn't really feel like she fits in there. It's a bit snobby. it's also imaginary, so I'm not insulting anybody in academia, just made it up. And she gets into all kinds of shenanigans with the faculty there. She instantly sort of strikes up an enemy in her department chair when she asks if she can write a course on mysteries. And he says, well, don't you know what literature is? And so that when he turns up dead, eyes come looking her way immediately. There's also a secret society that's a lot of fun in here, and some other things. I should mention too, these are humorous. They more fun maybe than academia. I don't know. You can be the judge of that. In the second book, which is also on the Stonedale campus, it's called The Art of Vanishing. It's set during Arts Week, which is when they bring in authors, and one very sort of horrible author in particular named Damon von Tussle is supposed to star, but when he comes to Colorado, he vanishes. Other things start to vanish, and Lila's mom, whose name is Violet O, she's a big artist in New York City with a huge personality. She comes, and it's a lot of fun to kind of watch her. She is Damon's ex. And so Lila gets again drawn into a mystery there. The third one is called The Spirit in Question. It is set during Halloween at the Stonedale Opera House. And I have to say the research was so much fun for this book because we went to some haunted opera houses, including the Tabor Opera House, the Central City Opera House, and the Tivoli, which on the MSU Denver campus where I teach, which also used to be an opera house. So this one may or may not be haunted. There are lots of fun things happening in here like Ghostbusters, and there's also a play being produced that's called Puzzle the Musical, which has different mystery characters and parts of different mystery stories all smooshed into one big extravaganza. So that's the third one. The next thing that happens for Lila is that she goes to a conference in the subject of malice, which doesn't sound fun, but it's actually a Gothic and horror conference. So it's almost like a Comic-Con for academics, if you can imagine that. There is another death, of course, as happens in these books. This time it is a huge author whose books are fantasy, kind of Indiana Jonesy. They're always turned into film, and he's also a professor. And so there are some interesting and terrifying moments, not terrifying, funny, terrifying slash, when he is found dead, and Lila is working on that case. The fifth book in the series is called The Study of Secrets. Oh, wait, I'm going to go back to this for 1 second. This is held, sorry, I have to tell you this. This is held at the Tattered Star Ranch, which is a place where they used to shoot movies. Originally, it was Westerns, and then it was horror films, and the grounds are dotted with props from various films too. So that's kind of fun. I wanted to mention that as well. This last one, the fifth book that came out in May, is called The Study of Secrets. Lila goes on sabbatical. She stays in the home of a mystery author that she admires very much. And it happens to be a Victorian mansion full of Gothic corners and lots of interesting crannies. At the first sort of scene in here, there's a book club where one of the members doesn't make it to the end of book club, which kicks off the mystery here, which also has to do with something that happened years ago when the person who owns the mansion's sister disappeared. So there's kind of a lot happening here too. And this is set in Larkston, Colorado, not Larkspur, but inspired by. And those are the Lila McLean academic mysteries.
As you can tell, I've had a few different careers here. And if you want to know why I gave up my lifetime appointment, ask me that a little later. But in the meantime, I want to tell you about the Sarah Blair series, because the two books that Stephanie just mentioned, and thank you for having us today, Boulder Bookstore, they were going to be series, but both of them got orphaned, which means the publishers stopped publishing mysteries or decided not to produce them anymore. So they became standalones. I'm very good at putting companies out of business. However, I have been promised that I am now with a big enough company that I cannot possibly put Kensington out of business. Ha, ha, ha. Anyway, what happened is when I finished writing those mysteries, the ones that were orphaned, I still wanted to write something either traditional, cozy, or cozy, just in general. And as you all know, a cozy takes place in a small, confined space. It has a protagonist who's an amateur sleuth. And it usually deals with something like cooking, crafts, all those things that I hate. I don't know about you, but I hate those things. I mean, if I cook more than 2 nights in a row, my husband wants to go out. So the bottom line was, I said, I can't write these. And then it dawned on me, I bet there's other people out there who hate crafts, hate cooking, or are lousy at it, which I'm all three. So I decided to make a protagonist, Sarah Blair, who finds being in the kitchen more frightening than murder. And that is where the Sarah Blair came from. She was married at 18, divorced at 28, and the only thing she got out of the marriage, because the rat ran off with, as she calls it, the bimbo, is this cat, which you can see on the cover of One Taste Too Many. The cat Ra is a Siamese cat that, while a character, only performs like a real cat. There's no thinking in the heads, there's no speaking in tongues. Cat's a cat. But in the first book, and this is not giving anything much away, her twin sister, who is a chef and who always knew what she wanted to do and followed it to the nth degree, her sister has now been accused of killing the rat, i.e. Sarah's ex-husband, with a taste of her award-winning rhubarb pie. And Sarah has to get her off the hook, or God forbid, Sarah might end up having to take her twin's place in a cooking exhibition. So that's book one. So she's trying to help her family, and there's a few social issues in there, but they're never going to hit you over the head. I write for fun because these are the kind of books I liked. The second book, which came out last year, and that one was a Woman's World Pick of the Week. This one's 2 Bites Too Many. I had to add a dog. I grew up knowing dogs. I did research cats, but I had to do both. In this one, the sister Emily wants to open a restaurant and get a loan from the bank, but the bank turns her down. And later on, the only one found in a locked room with the bank president, who's very dead and who has blood on her hands, is Sarah and Emily's mother, Maybelle. So it's come to the rescue of your mom again and find out what to do. Plus, we have some things like the blessing of the animals in this book. And that one was a Silver Faucian finalist a few weeks ago. The newest book came out just 2-3 weeks ago now, 3 Treats Too Many. I'll hold it up again if I can get it in the screen. And as you can see, the RIP in the soup, rest in peace. In this one, things are finally looking up for Sarah. She is co-owner of a restaurant with her sister because Sarah owns the building. Even Ra-Ra's looking at her differently. But they can't get the restaurant open because they can't get a final inspection. Across the street, the bimbo, Jane, has opened a competitive restaurant and it's doing great guns. It got opened immediately and it's got wonderful vegan recipes, but unfortunately, its sous chef gets killed. And when she is killed, the person standing over the body is one of Sarah's good friends, Jacob. And Sarah either has to help again in a mystery or Jacob might go down the drain. Anyway, the purpose of my books are meant to be fun. They're a little amusing, and they're there for you. I hope you'll enjoy them at some point.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie, for hosting us tonight. And thank you, audience, for joining us. We really appreciate it. I guess I'm going to turn a little bit more to the serious side because I write police procedurals. And the main character is a canine handler. So we have 3 protagonists actually in this series. And I'll talk about those in just a minute. We have 6 books out so far. And I worked really hard this summer to write the 7th one, which will be out next fall. So these are the 6 books. They feature Deputy Maddie Cobb, who is a canine handler in a fictional county in Colorado called Timber Creek County. Maddie won the achievement of being able to be the first canine handler in Timber Creek County when the merchants and the ranchers around that county decided that they needed to purchase a narcotics detection dog to help with drug trafficking through their community. The partner is named Robo, and he is a German Shepherd, and he's trained in patrol, which involves tracking and apprehension, as well as evidence detection. And he's also cross-trained for narcotics detection. And so each book has quite a bit of Robo action. Robo is kind of the star of the books, so I count him as one of the protagonists as well. And then, so that Maddie has a love interest, I decided to have a veterinarian in the books. And that's primarily because my love interest, my husband, is a vet, and we've been married for countless years now, almost 40 years. And so I knew that life. I knew that veterinarian life. So veterinarian Cole Walker kind of fills out the cast. And every book has some type of backstory for those characters and an arc that goes through the series. But each book stands alone as far as the mystery is concerned. And there is something that Cole Walker needs to be able to do to help solve the mystery. And there's something that Maddie and Robo have to do. They have to find clues. And there is quite a bit of outdoor action in this fictional setting called Timber Creek County. And it is up in the mountains of Colorado, and it's surrounded by the wilderness area. The most recent book is Hanging Falls. And again, Maddie learns more and more about her past in Hanging Falls while she's solving a current mystery. And it's not a spoiler to tell you that she actually, in this book, connects with some of her biological family. So she's come from not even realizing that she had biological family that existed outside of her mother and her brother, to actually connecting with a grandmother and a sister, which you find out in chapter 1. So that's why I said it's not really a spoiler. So that's kind of the series in a nutshell. And like I said, thank you so much for coming.
Great. Thank you very much, Stephanie. I can't tell everyone just how happy I am to be here. I love Boulder Bookstore. Every time I'm on the Front Range, I end up inside that store. I've actually been drug out of it by people who are wanting to get me onto the Pearl Street Mall, and it's just a wonderful bookstore. And so all of you who are here tonight and who are seeing this video at any time in the future, you know what a wonderful place Boulder Bookstore is. It's just a treasure, and I'm just glad to be here as part of the Boulder Bookstore coterie tonight. Specifically, I'm thrilled to be here with, I think, Stephanie, I think you saved me for last because I'm kind of halfway between Margaret, whose books are just these wonderful, serious police procedurals, and then the cozies on the other side with Cynthia, Becky, and Debra are these. I know Cynthia's work. I'm looking forward to getting to know Becky's and Debra's, but Study of Malice is just this wonderful book, and it really introduced me to cozies when I reviewed it recently for my review column. It's just this wonderful book, and so the whole world of cozies is just so wonderful, and it's something that I think in my series I've kind of learned to embrace over time. My series, as you mentioned, Stephanie, is the National Park Mystery Series, and I write clearly about the national parks. I've got an amateur sleuth and his wife who has become more and more of a sleuth along with my amateur sleuth, who is Chuck Bender, an archaeologist. And he is a contract archaeologist who moves from national park to national park. The bodies, of course, pile up in the national parks. The authorities in the national parks inexplicably fail to solve the ongoing crime spree. And so it falls to my amateur sleuth and his family, both his wife, Janelle, Ortega, who is a paramedic, and their two daughters to step in and solve the crime. So the idea here is that I've got a series that is entertaining, but also it seeks to be informative in that it hopes to, what I hope to do and what I've hoped to do with my publisher is really introduce readers to the sense of place that is each national park that the mysteries that I write are set in. We really want to give people a sense of that place so that people will continue to cherish and really appreciate our national parks. In addition to also trying to tell an entertaining story, what I work to do in each of my books is tell inside the plot a story of either a social justice issue or an environmental issue that is ongoing within that national park. So for my sixth book, which is called Mesa Verde Victim, what I've done is look into the whole idea of the repatriation of human remains that is an ongoing issue around the world and is very specific to Mesa Verde National Park. I'm fortunate to have been raised and have lived in Durango, Colorado for my entire life. And Mesa Verde is just 40 miles from my front door. And so Mesa Verde Victim is what I'm calling my hometown mystery. And as the sixth book in the series, I've developed my characters to the point where they've really, as readers, I hope have gotten to know their home base. Chuck lives in Durango. He is based in Durango, and he goes off to these other national parks where these mysteries occur. He's gone off to Grand Canyon, Rocky Mountain National Park, Yellowstone, Yosemite, and then last year, Arches National Park. This year, finally, I've brought him home. And the story begins 150 years ago, back to the time when a young man by the name of Gustav Nordenskjöld, a Swedish explorer, was in southwestern Colorado and was one of the first to explore the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde. At the time, of course, the whole idea of archaeology was something that hadn't even really been contemplated much. And it was really Gustav who put that idea to work. He was one of the very first to think of archaeology as a science. That was the good side. The bad side was that he basically looted. He took everything he could from Mesa Verde, loaded boxcar full trainloads of it, and took those boxcars back to Northern Europe, including 18 remains of humans from Mesa Verde. Those remains have been left in the museum, the National Museum of Finland, for the last 150 years. And there's been this ongoing effort to bring those remains back and basically repatriate them and reinter them where the Ute Mountain Utes who live in the area and who consider the cliff dwellers as their ancestors, the ancestral Puebloans as their ancestors, wish they would come back to. And lo and behold, that's what has happened recently. It's been big headlines around here that those remains have been repatriated by the University of Finland or the Museum of Finland. So that's kind of the value-added portion of the story. The actual mystery is that the inciting incident, one of Chuck's good friends is found dead in his back alley, in Chuck's back alley, and Chuck's study has been ransacked. And so Chuck and his wife Janelle and their daughters are faced with trying to figure out what's going on, and then working kind of in close concert with the local authorities to figure out what's going on. And of course, very quickly, the mystery takes Chuck and his young daughter Rosie, and then eventually the rest of the family to Mesa Verde itself, and the mystery plays out there. So that's the sixth book in the series. I'm honored to have my series published by a nonprofit environmental publisher called Torrey House Press. And if any of you out there are interested in looking at some of their books, they do amazing environmental work. I've been fortunate to be growing my series along with them as they've grown, and they've grown into a respected and highly influential environmental publisher, while I've kind of been the entertaining guy off here to the side, trying to interest folks in the national parks and help people enjoy those. So I hope that you all will be willing to give one of my books a shot if you like them. There's 6 of them out there. The 7th, just like Margaret, I'm kind of chasing Margaret's jet stream here. My 7th will be coming out next year as well, and I hope you'll find them to be fun, entertaining, and informative all at once.